Good journey, everyone. Welcome to Not Long Ago. I do that all the time. Welcome to Space Oats Live, a Star Wars podcast. Hey, Ben, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Um, oh, oh, man, it's been a while. I didn't do this last week, and yeah, I really want to talk about the Acolyte. So this is going to be a lot of the Acolyte. So hopefully you got your thoughts. I really want to kind of dive into my five favorite moments of the Acolyte this season. I don't deal with the negative, so anything Star Wars is positive. You know me. I love all things Star Wars. Yes, not everything's gonna go the way we want it to go. We're gonna have some, I don't know about that kind of moments, but you know what? It's Star Wars. The more I've watched it, the better it becomes. I'll talk a little bit about that, about maybe a different watch order that you might want to try because I've done it and I liked it. So I'll go through that in a little bit. But also I want to just throw out there my top five moments from the series that I think made the series uh, really amazing. And then there's going to be some honorable mentions, moment things that happened that don't really have to do too much with the story, but just things that were awesome to see. So if you're here, throw those out there. What was your favorite moment of the Acolyte? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and type those out. So if you join in, you can kind of let me know what was your favorite moment. My typing skills awful. Favorite moment of the, and it is capitalized T, Acolyte. And then let's see what else. What else should it be the other thing I'm going to talk about is what is it? Well, the release order, but then who was who was in outfit? Well, who was your favorite character? Um who was your favorite character? Let's do that because I'm all about characters. Who was your favorite character of the Acolyte? And I'm kind of gonna touch on my favorite character a little bit. Um, I think there's in a way, my favorite character. So we'll dive into maybe some other favorite characters in the future. But anyway, we're gonna talk about my my top five favorite moments of the Acolyte. My favorite, who I think was one of the most crucial characters of the Acolyte, and then also um, a release order. And then we'll talk about San Diego Comic Con a little bit. I'm not going, but there's already some news out there, some releases that maybe they'll talk about at San Diego Comic Con. So we'll dive into that. But first, we're going to do Not Long Ago in This Galaxy, as we always do every day on my Instagram page. I go live, I post about things in Star Wars history that happened today. And I did post about this one earlier today, and I'm going to go ahead and share the screen of that moment in history that happened today in, I believe it was 1980. Am I correct on that? Yes, 1980. Of course, it was 1980. I just didn't know if it was 81 or something, but I know it was at least 1980. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this up there, and we are going to look at this moment in Star Wars history. I want to do a split screen here so that I can be in the screen as well as have this up. So not like that. I don't like that. Um, I'm not in the screen for that one, but I think I can move this. Can I? No. I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying. Let's do this. How about this? There we go. That's good. At least I'm in the picture. At least I'm in the picture. Um, one day. I'm not the most tech savvy person anyway. But by the way, it's National Tequila Day, by the way. So I'm having some tequila. So um, anyway, this happened not too long ago in this galaxy. July the 24th, 1980. Rolling Stone magazine featured the cast of Empire Strikes Back. of The Empire Strikes Back on its cover. Man, that issue looks really old, but then again, it was 1980, right? I don't have a copy of this. I wish I kind of did, but I don't. There was an article in there called "Slaves of the Empire" that was in there, and you can actually find this article online. I've read it before. It is very easy to find online. Honestly, if you just type in Rolling Stone Empire Strikes Back cast cover article, whatever. You can find this article on there. Billy D. Williams, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford. Man, does Harrison Ford look very young in that. I mean, they all do, right? They all do. Honestly, out of all of them, Billy D. Williams really hasn't changed much. I mean, Harrison Ford, he's got a lot more wrinkles. Billy D. Williams does too, but for the most part, Mark Hamill and I mean, Carrie Fisher before she passed away looked a lot different as well. But I would say Harrison Ford and Billy D. Williams really aged well. Especially Billy D. Williams. He kind of looks the same. Doesn't really look too different at all. But yes, all four of them on the cover there. The article. Yeah, talk to each one of them. I think in the article, I'm pretty sure every one of them was in the article about talking about, well, at least the three, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher, talking about the original Star Wars and their return to that galaxy far, far away for The Empire Strikes Back. Obviously, they couldn't say too much about The Empire Strikes Back. It had just been released earlier that year. So, they talked a little bit about it. I don't think they got into any spoilers in that article. I don't think so. But yeah, so again, you can look that up. It's a very easy article to find. Pretty cool read, especially if you want to kind of see the cast perspective on some things that happened back in those days on the set of A New Hope mainly, and also The Empire Strikes Back. So that is your Not Long Ago in This Galaxy, July the 24th, 1980. 1980 was when that article came out. So again, let's get into the Acolyte, because that's why we're all here, right? We're more here to talk about the Acolyte and the show that I thought, as far as I just want to say, like, as far as the show in itself, the I would say that it was probably my I don't know about still. I haven't gotten to like ranking, how far it is on my list on the Disney Plus series. Um, I think I'm pretty sure I've enjoyed it definitely better than Book of Boba Fett. Um, I would say better than, not better than Andor. Andor's still my favorite. I just don't. I don't know if, I mean, The Mandalorian's great. I would say it's got to be it's got to be like number 4 for me. Um, with Andor, then Ahsoka, Mandalorian, and then this. So it's I liked it better than Obi-Wan Kenobi and um and the Book of Boba Fett for sure. So it's not that, honestly, it was not that bad of a series. I thought it was gonna be kind of directed at us in a different way than what it actually was. And I mean, that even kind of goes back to the articles that basically told us that just when you think that you know what the Acolyte is, it's not what you think. There was an article on StarWars.com, basically from Leslie Halen, that basically said the Acolyte is not what you think. And for the most part, that was true for me. Um, I thought it was going to be a little bit more twists and turns, like plot twists and turns. I didn't really get that from the show. I think the show's theme, like the theming of what we were kind of getting new light on. It was kind of shedding new light on certain certain characters, certain groups of people in a different way that we've ever seen them, which that caught me off guard. And I enjoyed that part. That's a lot of what I enjoyed because it's in a different time in history, with the Jedi and really no real like threat in the galaxy. Kind of that innocence of the galaxy, and yeah, just getting a different perspective on these groups and different viewpoints on the Force, and so forth. And I think that was a surprise for me as far as how much it shifted my outlook on or my perspective on things. So for that reason, it caught me off guard. As far as like who ended up being what, I was hoping for a little bit more of shocker surprise. So I was going way out there with my predictions of who was who, and it was more of the obvious, which, you know, being like what was supposed to be a mystery show, that kind of disappointed me a little bit. I was hoping more of like a, I don't know, I guess like a um, Knives Out kind of show. Not as funny, but really like a lot of twists and turns and plot points, and not really knowing who was doing what until you get to the end. And that really didn't happen. We kind of figured everything out really halfway through, and yeah, there were some other little things that popped up in the end that we'll get into, but for the most part, it was pretty predictable. And I mean, even some of those pop ups and teasers we kind of knew were going to happen, right? So let's get into the Acolyte and my top 5 moments. First off, I'm going to go kind of like from the bottom to the top, and this actually this photo was up here for a reason, because this is one of the things that was my favorite parts of the Acolyte is the costumes. It, I really appreciate. I mean, I love how Star Wars kind of reinvents itself with different um, parts of the galaxy, different characters, different timelines, and how the costumes really show the time periods that we're in. It really does um, get you in the moment of where you're at in the galaxy. And when we went from the original series that was very gritty and dirty, because it's the Empire, and it's kind of new, and you have that cleanness of the Empire, and then the grittiness of the rebellion, because they don't really have you know permanence. They're scattered throughout the galaxy, and it just made sense. I mean, it made sense budgeting wise, but it also made sense storytelling wise. Then when we went back to the prequels, everything was very clean and crisp, especially in the beginning, and in the Phantom Menace. Everything was very sleek and beautiful and shiny, especially with Naboo and the royalty there, and then Coruscant, and just everything colorful and just bright and big. And yes, there was a lot more budget with it, but it fit the era of the film. This is before the fall. This is basically everything not really at its peak, because that's what the High Republic is, but just about like ready to where it's like getting ready to fall. But there's still a lot of money. You can tell money is prominent in the galaxy, and money as far as showy money. When you have that scene in the opera on Coruscant, all of that. Flip that over to the Force Awakens side, the First Order. You start to see that again, a little bit of both, because there is that money part of the galaxy. There's the New Republic, which we don't really get to see a lot of in the sequel trilogy, but you still see that prominent, you know, Republic throughout the galaxy. It's different because the Jedi aren't involved, but then you see the grittiness also with the Resistance, and then you also have the First Order again, shiny, regimented, you know, and similar to the Empire look. So a lot of different mashups there in that as well. And then there's all the in betweens. that take place kind of around these when and you identify where the time periods are with all of these films. Solo, very gritty because that is the dark times of the Empire. Same thing with Andor. Same thing with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ahsoka, you're kind of getting that New Republic side, so you see that you know it fits in that timeline. Mandalorian, you're still seeing like the after effects of the fall of the Empire and the establishment of the New Republic. So you're still getting some like rebuilding grittiness, and especially being on the outer rim, which isn't really kind of thought about or cared about by the New Republic. You see the gritty off-worldness, as well as some other different stations, different planets that are well off on their own and established. So the time period by the scenery, especially the costumes. You know where people belong. Um, so I love the costumes. I thought the costumes really did take us to a different time, different place within the High Republic, which is very unfamiliar to us unless you've been reading them, unless you've been reading the stories or watching the Young Jedi Adventures, which is kind of hard to tell because it's animated. But you know that this is a different era. You know that this is at a time where um, things are more organized, peaceful, elegant, especially with the costumes. The Jedi Order, their costumes, not just simple robes. I mean, you got some really kind of nice colorful looks to their robes. Um, with the yellows kind of like thrown in there, and the belts. The belts are very more showy, more flashy in a way. The Night Sisters, but not Night Sisters. I mean, they're kind of a witch coven, but like different. They're kind of they even mistook them for Night Sisters, but you know that that's a different group, a different like cult that is together there on Brendock. Um, the Stranger, obvious dark side. You can tell from his costume, but still different. But ties to other possible dark side characters that we've seen in the sequel trilogy, that being the Knights of Ren. Very Knights of Ren look, so maybe some ties to that, connections to that, which we still kind of don't maybe really know for sure if those questions will be answered, maybe in a season 2. And then the Jedi, kind of when they're on Coruscant, the costume that we see Vanestra Rowe in the end, that you kind of see here, the white, the senatorial garb that she has with the High Republic insignia on it. Really awesome. Love that costume, and just fantastic job with the costumes. So it was really enjoyable to see a new era of costumes. That was definitely one of my favorite moments from the Acolyte, is seeing those different elements thrown out there. You can tell it's from a different time, but yet you can still tell it's Star Wars, and you can still tell which characters belong to which faction within the High Republic time frame. So that is definitely my number 5 moment of the High Republic. Don't know if you guys enjoyed the costumes as much as I did, but I definitely did. This other moment, I should have found another picture that would have been a little bit better, but than this one, I'm sure. But this is from episode 7, uh, Choice. Right? It was called Choice, right? Um, I think, yes, I believe so. I believe it was called Choice. Episode 7 took us all the way back, that 16 years from the perspective of the Jedi. The beginning of this episode, which dealt with the exploration of this planet of Brendock. I loved the beginning of this. Honestly, it took us. We saw the Jedi in a different role here, which we haven't normally seen. That of exploration of the galaxy, almost like scientists in a way. just understanding the Force, learning about the Force in different ways, exploring more. Which I thought this was a really great moment for the series because every time we've really seen the Jedi, it's been training to be a Jedi, learn how to use the Force, and using it to for protection and defense, but we don't really see that knowledge part of it, which is brought up in the originals. The Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack. And we see this moment in the beginning of this episode in the Acolyte, episode 7. The Jedi really kind of taking that search for knowledge with the Force, um, to in a place that we've never seen before. So the reason that they're basically going to Brendok is because of Brendok was supposedly destroyed, decimated during the hyperspace crisis, during the times of the High Republic, when we first kind of uh, start off with the High Republic, going back 300 some years, to when the hyperspace disaster happened and the emergence of all those um, debris from the ships, ended up kind of destroying some planets. Yes, some planets were saved, which we see in some of the publications by the help of the Jedi, but some planets were actually wiped out because of that debris that ended up striking the planets. And apparently, Brendok was one of those planets. But then I'm guessing like 200 years now, it looks like nothing ever happened. It looks like this planet is thriving with life, and the Jedi are basically there to kind of understand why. How did this happen? So you see them there. They're taking samples. They're almost acting as scientists, and they've been there for quite some time on this expedition, which is a different way that we've ever seen the Jedi. And I like seeing the Jedi in different ways. I like this exploration aspect of it. I love the fact that you see the galaxy in a different way. That there's unexplored territory. Yes, there are times in Star Wars where you go to planets and you're like, oh, this planet has been abandoned, or though this planet, we don't really know a lot about this species or what's on this planet. But there's not a lot of time spent on that because there's always some goal that happens that they have to get to, and it's just too rushed. This gives us time to really sink in that the Jedi at this time, they have the moment to do so. There's nothing that they're fighting in the galaxy at this point. This is the Jedi just kind of laid back, their everyday understanding what their job is. They have outposts throughout the galaxy with Jedi stationed to help with little skirmishes on each planet. But then there's groups of Jedi, as we see here, that are sent out for exploratory nature, for missions to just go and explore, learn about planets, cultures, how the Force is working within the galaxy, to expand that knowledge of the Force. So I thought this moment in the Acolyte was really interesting. It was another one of my favorite moments to see, that they're there for this purpose. Yes, they get sidetracked, which causes everything else to domino effect within the Acolyte, even though we don't see it in that order. But that was one of my favorite moments as well. That is definitely in my top 5. So that is my number 4 moment from the Acolyte. Number 3 is the kind of the different perspective on the Jedi themselves. So that episode of destiny and choice, those 2 episodes really give us a look into the Jedi and how they are not perfect. They do make mistakes, right? And not just one person really made a mistake here. You have 4 Jedi that kind of went along with this decision, and could have stopped it at one point or another. Um, but each in their own way really made mistakes. And I mean, really, when you think about it, kind of the downfall of it was Master Soul, and that attachment that he immediately formed with the twins, and then more specifically later on with Osha. And almost at the very beginning, wanted her to be his Padawan and wanted to bring her back to Coruscant and didn't want to take no for an answer. Even though the council basically said that they should leave them alone, uh, still letting his attachment that he had already gained already by meeting Osha cloud his judgment, and feeling that he needed to protect her, and not really seeing the overall picture. Um, Obviously, the learning of after testing them and learning that they were of one being and they were created, and possibly that was the reason, maybe why they were sent to that planet to learn, what was going on with the Force being so powerful on that planet. Torben, making that mistake, being a Padawan, jumping to his desire to get off of this planet, not really wanting to be there in the first place for as long as he was, thinking it was boring, want to be back on Coruscant, and jumping to that, if we can get to the twins, we can have our answer, we can leave this place and go back home. And that uncontrolled urge, again, led to partially that point of the downfall. Master Indara not really taking control of the situation. Just her feelings with her fellow teammates, her or and also possibly even wanting to be in control a little bit too much, um, causing them to basically make their move on the temple and go in there to see what was going on. Proceeding with that, going in as a team, and which ultimately made them look like a threat, to basically find out what was going on with that, with the coven there on Brendok. And then Kilnaka, in a way, he was probably the least of the issues, except for kind of being used, kind of falling, maybe not being on guard enough, and then kind of falling that same way that Torben did, allowing his mind to be controlled, um, which the focus of them all was really just kind of messed up at that point in time. So seeing the Jedi from that perspective, also, even not even just the four here, um, that was also shared back on Coruscant with the Jedi Order. And we already see like some of the downfall of the Jedi Order in connection with the Senate not trusting them, the Jedi Order already starting to kind of have hidden secrets that they're not being transparent enough with the Senate, which makes them think that they're trying to possibly gain more control of the Republic than what is necessary, rather than just be guardians of peace, but maybe gain a little bit more power. And Vernestra is kind of a part of that. She's the one that kind of holds things back from the council. Kind of taking everything uh, under her direction as far as this investigation with the murders of the Jedi, not giving all this explanation to the council, or the Senate, kind of holding it back, hiding it, which then ends up, and the reason possibly being is because of maybe possible faults that she had. Once we learned that that the stranger was her pupil at some point, maybe whatever she did, she doesn't want to come to light either to show she has faults as well. So the Jedi definitely not shown as too much in the light in this series, which again I think is fantastic. I love the fact that eventually we come to learn that really the Jedi were not balanced. They were definitely wrong in a lot of their thought process, in a lot of their beliefs, their thinking, and we see that in some of the Jedi that left the Jedi Order. We see that in different changes that have happened. Um, in the future, and even Luke kind of like getting that understanding, but really not knowing how to move forward because he really didn't know everything as well. So that's why Ahsoka, she is by far I think the most one of the most attuned to the Force characters in the Star Wars galaxy because I think she really got it. I think she understood in the end um, the difference between light and dark and the balance in the middle. Whereas I don't think the Jedi or the Sith ever, fully grasped that, and they didn't really see how it would become their downfall. So we start to see a lot of this stray, which this is why it's my number three moment of just the views of the Jedi, and how it was brought to light, beginning here in the Acolyte. We saw start to see the downfall of the Jedi here in the High Republic. So in that High Republic era, so it'll be interesting to see how they play this out if season two comes to fruition on screen. Um, the more secrets that are revealed, how the distrust with the Senate and the Jedi start to break things down, how they maybe become a little bit more separate, become a little bit more less trusted in the galaxy. Um, Maybe there's a reason why all Jedi outposts, because I don't really think there's really any Jedi outposts by the time we get to the Phantom Menace. It doesn't really speak of that um, in that way. So, you know, maybe we see why. That maybe they're all pulled back to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant and maybe only sent out by the direction of the Senate, which kind of seems like what happened in Coruscant. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon were sent out as a delegation by the Chancellor. So maybe that was something that things like this that are happening in the Acolyte caused that to be, and we're seeing that kind of take place, and maybe that culminates more in season two, um, and hopefully we'll get a season two on screen, and we'll get to learn a little bit more about that. Um, Again, kind of touching on that moment of the Jedi and the different views, we didn't really see much of the Jedi Council because things were being held back from the Jedi Council. And I think even like in the Phantom Menace, you would probably agree that even though there was the Jedi Council, there was a lot of secrets, I think, among them. And like, I think that that's the reason why. So I keep going back to, we never heard that there's a definite that the stranger is a Sith. He's never said that to anyone but Master Soul. He said that you would maybe call me a Sith, but he didn't say he was a Sith, and he doesn't go by Darth whatever. At least we don't know that as of yet. But Kiadi-Mundi in the Phantom Menace, and I've mentioned this before, says the Sith have been extinct for a millennia. So obviously Kiadi-Mundi doesn't know anything about these dark side characters, these Sith characters, which he doesn't in the Acolyte. It shows that that is Kiadi-Mundi in one of the episodes. He never really knows what's going on. He doesn't know anything about this character. The only people that know about this character at the end are really Vanestra. She kind of realizes it in the end, and Soul and May, and that's it. because everybody else is dead. So y- Vernestra Rowe going to Yoda in the end and probably telling him what's going on. It'll be interesting to know if Yoda knows that there's Sith, which may kind of hint to why he knows about the rule of two. Um, it just always seems like Yoda knows a lot more than he's telling. So my thoughts are that Yoda's gonna know, and he's kind of hiding this from the Jedi Council by the time we get to the Phantom Menace, and he's never told anything about what happened with this stranger and whoever else that he ends up knowing within the Acolyte characters. You know, who ends up knowing about Darth Plagueis? I don't know. We'll find out. But I love this scene at the end, this little teaser that Yoda kind of is about to get a little bit more insight of what was going on, but only him gets to know. And I don't think that this is going to be shared with the rest of the Jedi Council. And if it is, maybe it's only a few. And we'll see who they might be. I don't think it's going to be a lot of the different characters that we saw on the counts at the Phantom Menace age. My thoughts are if we do see anybody else, I don't know how long Plo Koon's species lives, but maybe him, maybe Yaddle. Maybe we might see Yaddle in the Acolyte season 2. Maybe we'll see Yariel Proof. I think I'm saying his name right. Some of the characters of alien species that we don't know. I don't think we'll see Mace Windu. Um, being humanoid. We've already seen Ki-Adi-Mundi. Maybe we'll see him again, but he's not on the council, at least as of this season of the Acolyte. Who knows? Maybe somebody else gets sent out that Ki-Adi-Mundi ends up taking his chair. I don't know, or other characters that eventually their seats end up being taken by the characters that we know as well. Let's see. So what do I got so far? I did the costumes, the exploration factor, the Jedi. Yes. So this is my number 2 is going to be the character of the stranger. Um, Thinking that he was going to be a different character, and then I mean, it was pretty obvious that Kamir was the stranger. I was hoping that was a kind of a misguide, and that was not going to be the case. However, once it happened, once it was revealed, I embraced it. I was good with it. I loved Manny Jacinto. I love his kind of almost like Yoda-ness of being a dark sider. He how Yoda on Dagobah is this crazy old hermit, and Kamir kind of has that with the dark side aspect of it. He comes off as this drunk, lazy, kind of not really all together person, but still like getting all the answers that May needs to get her to where she needs to go next. And then as soon as that flip happens, and yeah, there's some reverts back, but as soon as that flip happens, he becomes a completely different person. And you really do see the darkness inside of him. And I loved that side of him. I loved his expressions. There are so many expressions that Manny Jacinto does that make me want to know what he was thinking at that time. And one of the biggest ones was in the last episode when they were on Brendock and they were talking about when Soul was talking to May and Osha about them being the same person and then being created with the use of the Force. They throw a shot to Manny Jacinto, and you almost see him just thinking, there just a light bulb going off in his head, like, that's interesting. Or he comes to an understanding of something. At that point, we've already seen the cameo, the Easter egg of Darth Plagueis on the unknown planet. If the stranger knows about Plagueis's desire to control the midichlorians, to create life, to prolong life, this could be a way that those two are connected, and possibly we see a story development with them two in the next season. That Manny Jacinto knows about this with these two characters, and possibly the reason why those two characters need to come back together. Because at this point in time, May is under arrest, so she's going to be imprisoned. So I don't think that she's going to be let out of prison on Coruscant. I think she's going to be there, and she's possibly going to be broken out. But then also there's going to be the search for Osha as well. By the way, real quick, starting to storm here. So if I end up going down, that might happen. I might try to wrap this up a little bit quickly, just because of that. But yeah, Manny Jacinto's character is so Sith-like, yet not hinted at possibly Sith, but still, the Knights of Ren, are they really Sith, or are they dark side users? There are dark side users, there are Sith. Maybe we're going to learn a little bit about what makes you a Sith, what makes you just a dark side force user, a little bit more in this series going forward. And then, of course, his character in full Sith mode, or in full Darksider mode, or Knights of Ren mode, as Stranger, before we knew him, before he took off that Cortosis helmet. That Cortosis helmet, amazing. I love that they brought Cortosis full on into Star Wars canon, even though it has been Star Wars canon. I love that it's there. We got to see the effects of it, how it's kind of like Beskar, but, absorbing the energy, which is amazing. I love the effects of that. So Manny Jacinto's The Stranger. The Stranger, I believe, was a very, very awesome character. Definitely being my number 2 of the Acolyte. That makes this series amazing. And then my number one of this series was the lightsaber battles. I mean, come on. We knew it was going to happen. From the minute we saw the trailer or the teaser at Star Wars Celebration in London, all of the lightsabers that lit up, you knew there was going to be a lot of lightsabers at some point. And honestly, I am totally fine with the amount of lightsaber battles, because I want story-driven Star Wars. But I also like to see amazing stunt work, amazing lightsaber battles. And I love the fact that, originally when we got lightsaber battles back in the day with New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, yes, they were kind of, and you're like, well, how do they all of a sudden start doing all this amazing stuff? Different time periods, different teachers. I mean, think about it. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader was more of a mental game. They were both old. They're both not in their prime anymore. Luke Skywalker, very young and trained. Darth Vader wasn't. He didn't want to kill him. He was toying with him most of the time. It fits with the story. Going back to the prequels, when we saw Darth Maul jump in with all the stunts and the amazing lightsaber battle in the Duel of the Fates, was amazing. Then we get more of like seeing Yoda in the Attack of the Clones, and the lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, and then all the other little battles in between, and then seeing again a different aspect of it in the sequel trilogy with Kylo Ren and Rey and the Praetorian Guards, and that battle in The Last Jedi, which is still one of my favorites. And then all the animated work. We see the Jedi just do some amazing lightsaber battles, and this took it to a new level. Almost very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which they did pull from as far as the different style of fighting, the floating, like just the stunt work was amazing. And one of my favorites right here, the Kelnaka battle with Master Soul. I mean, a Wookiee Jedi. I mean, we were hoping for that in the beginning, and then when we found out that Kanaka was killed, it was like, oh no, we're not going to see a Wookiee Jedi wield a white lightsaber, and then go to this flashback episode, and we were redeemed. So much so, with seeing Kalnaka against Soul and Torben on Brendok was amazing, right? And then also this other battle, which again in this last episode was just awesome. The battle between Master Soul and the Stranger, which was amazing as well. I mean, that scene part right there where Master Soul was falling backwards, it reminded me so much of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And then to see just the way that Master Soul is really powerful to be able to take on the Stranger by himself. Obviously he is the most powerful out of the group at that time, or at least very attuned to the Force with his lightsaber skills. Was really awesome to be able to see, and what a great battle that was. I loved it. I mean, he defeated him really in the end, which was really amazing. Unless he was holding back a little bit and possibly make the decision Osha's. I guess we'll never really know about that. But yeah, so those are my top 5 moments. Obviously, Osha and May, there's a lot of theories, as far as them with twins with powers. I kind of keep going back to the dyad, the Force dyad, and I think we might learn a little bit more about that. Kind of maybe that's what they were trying to create, a light and a dark, and a balance, in a way. And I loved how that kind of flipped in the series. Wasn't really expecting that to happen. I had a little bit of thought that it might happen, but I wasn't expecting it as quickly as it did, and in the way that it did. So I thought they did a great job with that. I love the ending of this series with them two, and the kind of the erasing of the mind thing, which was a different thing that we've ever seen happen with the use of the Force within the dark side, because it was that definitely is a dark side trait, and especially wiping her mind to the extent that he did, and then her going with the Stranger to become his pupil, or possibly tool, or key, that he takes to Plagueis. So I guess we'll find out, what his intentions are. Some honorable mentions of favored moments. The bleeding of the crystal. The bleeding of the crystal, definitely a honorable mention. A lot of people don't know how they feel about this, because there's a lot of, could this have really happened the way it did with the crystal kind of being not contained in the saber, and it would have kind of blown up, or could it have been contained? Maybe she's just that powerful and she could still contain the blade. Maybe that's the case. But I love to see the crystal bleed right in the emitter, and then the saber turn from blue to red. I thought that was a really interesting way that was done. Just all of her focus, her anger, her emotions going in at that time, which caused that to happen. And yeah, so, and especially it being her former master's saber, with that happening with, is pretty amazing. So that was a definite honorable mention of mine. Just seeing that on screen was really cool. Seeing some characters that that we've seen before, especially at least the species that we've seen before. I love seeing this species of character pop up again. We saw this species of character in The Force Awakens as a New Republic character, and then going back to the High Republic. So High Republic and New Republic characters of the same species. So that was a pretty neat little nod Easter egg. And then, of course, I forgot to grab a picture of it, but of course, we had the Darth Plagueis Easter egg, which, I mean, how could you not have liked that? So I really, really, really hope we're getting a season 2. I hope it did well enough that Disney proceeds with that. I don't know if we'll get any information on that at D23, but I do have a feeling that if we do hear anything about a season 2, that we will see that in Japan at Star Wars Celebration. So thank goodness I will be there, because I'd love to see a panel with these characters and these actors, and them talk about this series a little bit more, and hopefully give us some insight on, please, 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 let there be a season 2 of The Acolyte. Tomorrow San Diego Comic-Con starts. So yeah, there's a lot at least that was announced with some publishing, and I know that there's going to be some possible information on some of these new releases at San Diego Comic-Con. There's going to be some panels as well that obviously, I think tomorrow is the first panel for San Diego Comic-Con for Star Wars, so definitely going to be attuned to that, waiting for that. But some of the announcements that we're going to hear about were released on StarWars.com. Got some artwork from some of the new comics with some more High Republic stories, some New Republic stories, all sorts of amazing stuff. So the one that is coming in October 2024, this year, the final battle of the Galaxy's Civil War. So really getting us right at the end of the Galactic Civil War, the remnants of the Empire, giving us some storytelling there with the Battle of Jakku. And Marvel gave us the first 4 covers of the Battle of Jakku here on StarWars.com. So that is the second. I don't know if that's Bib Fortuna or not, but that'll be pretty cool to have him show up in some stories. Mon Mothma as well, back. And then Luke Skywalker. I don't know who that other character is there, but in the front. But love the different trooper looks, which look pretty awesome. So maybe we'll see them on screen at some point. And issue number 4 here, Admiral Akbar there as well. Again, I don't know who that other character is, but so it'll be. There is a little bit more storytelling from the Acolytes of the Beyond that we saw in Rise of Skywalker in those series. So the prequel trilogy is going to get an adaptation, graphic novel. I think this is from Dark Horse, actually, that this is going to happen. So that comes out November the 12th. And then we get some more High Republic adventures from the Occlusion Zone. That comes out November 13th. A new Star Wars encyclopedia, which I would love to get another encyclopedia, honestly. I have the old encyclopedia, the really old one somewhere. I don't know where it is. But like definitely from Legends era. But that new Star Wars encyclopedia comes out November 5th. And then more High Republic Edge of Balance Premonition. That's the one with Yoda. That comes out April 8th of next year. And if you're attending San Diego Comic-Con, there is a... I'm not going to Star Wars fan. Um, has he been in Star Wars yet? I don't think he has, but he should be. He should be in Star Wars at some point. If he hasn't, I don't think he has. If he has, he's only voiced anything. Definitely don't think he's been in Star Wars. He's been in a lot of Marvel stuff, but not Star Wars. But gonna be um on a panel that's going to bring together all sorts of writers, artists, actors from all across the Star Wars galaxy, including Star Wars Outlaws, um, characters, and D. Bradley Baker as well, who has just, been all over the Star Wars voice acting world. So you'll get a lot of that, as well as some of the writers of some of the High Republic stories also. So if you're at San Diego Comic-Con, that is on Thursday, and I'm sure they'll talk about some of these new releases on that day. So I would love to be there. One day I'm going to get to San Diego Comic-Con, but it's not happening this year, unfortunately. And yeah, that'll be a cool panel, I'm sure. So but then there's the Lucasfilm panel as well. And then just kind of to sum this up, so I did say that there was a release order, or an order that I just watched The Acolyte after it all had finished. And I heard, if you're looking for another perspective on this series, I just watched it, where I watched episode 7, Choice, which goes all the way back to the Jedi being on Brendok. We see them start off peaceful scientific mission, blah 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 blah. See it from Soul's perspective. Then going back and watching episode 3, Destiny, which goes to May's perspective. Really, it's May's perspective. It's kind of Osha's perspective. And then going back to watch the series with the rest of the episodes concurrently in the correct future timeline. And I have to say, it was a really good watch. I almost wish that somebody, because I thought about it for a second, but I'm like, there's no way I'd be able to do this. I wish somebody would edit together the 2 flashback episodes to make it one episode, just to see if it flows. And that's a challenge. If anybody's into that kind of stuff, I would love to see somebody do that and post that. I don't know if they would be able to or not, but I would love to see those episodes concurrently flow and see how it would work, how that story would be told, how it would it work. I know the music changes a lot between those 2 episodes, but I would love to just see the story as a whole, all the way through. And I would like to see, how that would kind of get pulled off, but I definitely don't have the time and resources to do that in a efficient and timely manner. But definitely recommend. It was a great watch to be able to watch it in that order. So if you're wanting to watch that, it's a great way to do it. And then my crucial character pick of The Acolyte is, right now, of course, it's going to be a droid. And I really hope they make this droid at some point, because it's a really cool droid, is Pip. Pip was an awesome droid. I love how Pip kind of just he's kind of like a mini handheld R2-D2. But I also kind of look at Pip as, I almost kind of like compare him to like smartphones or watches, and just to see how they've changed over the years. And I just think back at like the old ancient, multi-tool, cell phones or watches that had the little calculators on them or whatever, and that's about it. They didn't really have much, and they did their job. Pip kind of reminds me of that in the way of droids. He's there. He has a job to do. He's got all these little functions and tools and things with him. But he can't even really get around on his own. So, but smartphone with an attitude. I love that. That's great. That's perfect. But I love Pip. Pip is great, and I have no reason to doubt that that Disney's going to have a Pip droid at some point that you're going to be able to find in Galaxy's Edge, and I will be there probably to get my very own Pip droid at some point. I love the color scheme too. This color scheme is great. Color scheme is great. That's like one of the color schemes that I always make BD when I'm playing Survivor is those colors. So some of my favorite colors with Pip. Pip is great. I'm actually watching the Young Jedi Adventures right now. Now that Acolyte is over and we're in a lull, I rewatched the Acolyte in that order that I had stated. I just finished up the Mandalorian again, watching that. I think I have one episode left actually, and I'm restarting Young Jedi Adventures because we get some more Young Jedi Adventures coming out this month. So I'm just kind of going back and watching those great little episodes, fun, and just kicking back and enjoying fun Star Wars until we get some more announcements. And who knows, maybe we're going to get some news tomorrow. San Diego Comic-Con in full force tomorrow. Mos Eisley is going to be there as well. If you're going to Mos Eisley, have fun at that. You will have a great time if it's your first time. It's a lot of fun. But that is it for me today, this week. I appreciate everyone. Thank you for joining in. I had a few people tonight. Ben, thank you for saying hello. Anybody else that's joined in, appreciate you joining. Please subscribe. Please like. Please hit those notifications. I do this every week. We talk about Star Wars and nothing else. Well, maybe some other stuff every now and then. Oh, by the way, I did get something else. I had it in my pocket. I got this the other day. I've been always wanting to get one of those credit card wallets, and I found this online. I can't remember the name of the company, but I'm sure it's pretty easy to find. But it's one of those credit card wallets. Ooh, you can't really see that well because there we go. But it's a Beskar one. Beskar credit card wallet. So basically, you can just pop that up and everything comes up. You can see a little bit of my Mandalorian Grogu credit card from Disney Chase Visa in there. But really cool. It's actually nice, heavy. It's pewter. So it's pretty cool. I can engrave it too. I just didn't get it engraved, but I'm looking for somewhere where I can maybe get it engraved locally, and I'm trying to think of something in there. Maybe they can do some Arabesh. If I can find somebody that can do it in Arabesh, would be really cool. Just got to figure out who might be able to do that for me. So, but yeah, really cool little find online. It is actually officially licensed by Star Wars. Pretty expensive, but it's definitely worth it. And I did get some more Roosevelt shirts last week. I got the yeah, I'll just wear them one day and post so you can see them. But there was a big Roosevelt's drop yesterday, and I almost bought like more shirts, but I just really couldn't afford it. But that is it for today. Thank you for joining. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, hit those notifications. We'll try to do this again next week. Until that time, make sure we're doing something Star Wars, watch some Star Wars, listen to some Star Wars, read some Star Wars, play some Star Wars, do something Star Wars. But most importantly, remember, may the stars light your way. Have a great night, everyone.